Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
Brandon, let's quickly do a little local sports roundup just because we got, some news. And I know you just, there's a good story that you just got up on Chippewa.com, but Chippewa Falls has a new hockey coach.
Yes.
New hockey coach. Tell us a little bit about him quick.
Yeah, Matt Lukowitz, a long-term fixture in Chippewa Falls, played for the Cardinals under previous coach Scott Parker in the 90s, helped the Cardinals get to state a couple times. More recent years, he's been a big part of the youth program.
Okay.
So a lot of these kids that he will be coming in to coach, he's actually coached in the youth levels. So, that was something in talking with him, you can understand, feel is a good advantage for him. He's not having to learn necessarily a big group of people for the first time and the families and all that go into it. So, he's someone that's going to come in and, a lot of kind of the tenets, the pillars that, Scott Parker established with the Cardinals, he wants to continue. He wants to keep going with. They're going to be a team that's, focused on defense, a team that's, playing hard, a team that's, doing all of those kind of little things to lead to big things like it did last year when the Cardinals, reached the state tournament. So, just a guy that's familiar as coach, I've coached a few years in the program as a volunteer under Coach Parker. So, a guy that's coming in with a full understanding of what goes into the, what kind of makes the Cardinal program and, kind of the different facets of it and kind of knows the different pieces of it. So I think that's going to be a big help. Now for him, it's about kind of putting together the coaching staff. He's hopeful they can have that in place by the time they have contact days coming up next month.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, and then you kind of go from there.
Yeah. I know I know it's not quite in your neck of the woods, but same conference. Eau Claire North's got their new basketball coach, Logan Horn. Is going to be over there.
And with Coach Horn joining the Huskies, that's a Huskies team that is really, it's going to have some good players coming back this coming year. A team that really got better as the year went on, and by the end of the year, they were playing some really good basketball. So that's a good spot to jump in. And there's kind of a couple new coaches in the Big Rivers with Menominee also hiring Greg Van Grunsven, the former Bloomer coach, but also a former coach in the conference, had coached previously at Eau Claire Memorial
and Regis too, I believe a little bit. I was reading under it too.
But Coach Van Grunsven's won a lot of games. This past year helped Bloomer win the Western Clover Belt, also won a Heart of North title earlier on in his tenure. He's just a veteran coach that's he's kind of seen it all, he's kind of done it all. So that's a good get for Menominee after previous coach Matt Rowley is now the athletic director there, I believe. So
does that mean Bloomer's going to be looking for a new coach?
Correct.
Or? Okay.
Correct. And they'll have some returners coming back next year with Zeke Strand, who actually just a little bit earlier this summer picked up a preferred walk-on offer from the Wisconsin football team.
Oh, nice.
So Colin Crane, some other guys there too. So that Bloomer team is going to be, whoever ends up with that job, they're going to have some good athletes to work with there as well. But yeah, this is kind of the time of year where you'll see this sometimes. I know there's some other coach or some other schools that have new coaches, like Holcomb Boys have a new coach with David Engel, who coached there previously. So he's jumping back into a situation he's familiar with. There's some other coaches as well. For Oliva Strum girls basketball, they hired Dave Huzica, who's the former cadet girls coach, who had a lot of success with the Hornets. Really helped that program kind of go to reach a level it had not had in the 21st century. So. Oliva Strum's getting a good veteran coach and a coach also that's just a veteran of the AAU level as well. So just kind of a fair amount of movement this time of year, as you'll often get.
Right. And then another accolade for Coach Reykjavik.
Yeah.
Was it the
NHS Coaches Association Hall of Fame?
So the national one.
Yes, the National Hall of Fame.
So
him and there's two coaches from the state of Wisconsin this year that'll be a part of that next class. It's just, it's for him, it's another. He's in the Wisconsin Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame. He's won other accolades from the WFCA, also from his alma mater, UW Superior. I actually just talked with him a little bit earlier this week, not about that, but we were talking about something else. And at this point, he's getting ready to start year 51 this coming year.
Yeah.
Year 37, 38, I forget which one it is in Chippewa. I hope he's not listening because I don't want him to make me think I'm making him feel old. But when he was hired to be the Chippewa Falls football coach, I was not 1 year old yet.
Same.
Yeah. So he's been doing it a long time, a lot of great success. They're gonna, and I guess this is kind of segue into what I was referring to is coming up here the rest of the summer. I'm gonna have a series of stories coming up on the latest run of realignment for football.
Oh, okay.
And we started out with the Big Rivers, which obviously as we've talked about, is kind of a point of contention with some people, and I thought that'd be a good one to talk with. So I talked with Coach Rako from Chippewa, Coach Sins from Menominee, Coach Dan Hill from Rice Lake. Now that Rice Lake's back in the Big Rivers, kind of about the changes in the Big Rivers, which for those of you that don't know, i.e. the biggest thing is that Eau Claire North and Memorial are not in the Big Rivers for football only. These are all this is all football only stuff, but. So this year they're in the Wisconsin Valley, so they're with Marshfield and Stevens Point and such, and kind of getting their perspective on that, and to kind of tease it up. I mean, so far people aren't very happy about it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But getting a chance to talk with them about it, kind of what it means, and I've got some other coaches I've talked to as well that'll be coming up again. That'll be really. I'm looking forward to checking that out. Definitely. Yeah, those are always good coaches to talk to, and they had some things to say. So
especially and I know Coach Sins listens too, but I mean. He did coach at Memorial to get that perspective a little bit there too.
He has, these coaches all come in this with a unique perspective. They're all longer time coaches in the Big Rivers. Mm-hmm. In the case of Coach Rako, I mean, he's seen kind of a couple different versions of it.
Right.
With Dan Hill, I mean, he was a part of a team that was, pushed out of the Big Rivers. Now it's back.
Right.
And in case of Coach Sins, like you mentioned, he coached at one of those Eau Claire schools, so he kind of understands, as the other ones do as well, because they're longer term coaches, like the importance of having, the Eau Claire schools, and something that
those rivalries a little bit,
right?
Right.
And something Coach Sins mentioned to me, he goes, it's just kind of crazy to think that an Eau Claire Memorial or an Eau Claire North is going to play a conference game against DC Everest or Wausau West. They're driving right by Chippewa.
Right.
It's 10 minutes down the road, and that's not a conference game. That's just odd.
Right.
But that's just how kind of the deck has been, how the deck was shuffled for this latest round of realignment, and it could change in 2 years. Every 2 years, and it kind of gets reevaluated, and that was kind of another thing where it's like, well, we're gonna kind of get to a point here where like a lot of fans and maybe more casual fans just aren't aware of who's even in their conference,
right?
Because you would expect, because in every other sport, Eau Claire North and Eau Claire Memorial play Chippewa, they play Menominee, they play Rice Lake,
right?
But in football, that may not necessarily be the case.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be confusing, no doubt.
It is, and that's why I wanted to touch base on it, because I wanted to kind of explain it and at least let people know, hey, this is how it is before the season starts.
And maybe this might be a better question for somebody like Justice, but at the same time too, so like when we do football previews and we're so familiar with these other teams, people who cover Eau Claire North Memorial, they may not know, like Justice may not know too much about DC Everest,
right,
or those teams,
or Stevens Point or Marshfield. You're right, because so much of it is just by proxy, and that's kind of even with me, where it's like, look, I don't cover a Rice Lake or a Menominee, I know, because I'm Chippewa, but at the same time, like, I know about them because you kind of have to by proxy,
right? Or
in the Clover Belt, it's like Regis or Durand,
right?
It's like I don't cover them specifically, but it's like because I cover Stanley Boyd, and because I keep a close eye on the Clover Belt, I know some about what these, how the success these programs have had.
Right, exactly. You're right. It's that proximity. So it's going to be, I think, a challenge. From media people too to cover that,
right? Because if if you cover North of Memorial, you want to make sure you're doing a good job letting people know about hey, this is what you expect out of them, but this is also what you're kind of looking at with the rest of the conference.
Right.
You want to give some context, and that can be a little bit tougher when it's a new batch of teams, and that was that's something that I've with who I cover, I've kind of had that same challenge as well, where. For example, if you look at like the new 8-man conferences, New Auburn is back with some familiar teams, kind of in that it's not called the Lakeland, but they're Lakeland area teams. But yet I don't necessarily know a ton about them, but I'm going to try to learn because I want to be able to, if New Auburn was doing well, you want to give the context. Well, this team is doing well, but the other teams that are doing well as well are X, Y, and Z.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's something I just thought of too. It's like, and that's going to be a little bit of an adjustment, I think, for a lot. So.
Sure.
Hey, did I see? Do we have the? Is it the baseball All-Star?
Yeah, the Wisconsin Baseball Coach Association. We've had some within the last couple of weeks. We've had all the All-Star games that you have in the spring, like softball. It was a few weeks ago. Basketball was actually the last 2 days.
Okay,
we had a bunch of representatives for both boys and girls down there. And yeah, today and tomorrow down in Oshkosh, or over in Oshkosh, I guess, however you look at it. Wisconsin Baseball Coach Association All-Star Classic. I wrote a piece a little bit earlier this week on Chippewa Falls' Easton Bob, who will be pitching in the All-Star game. He's going to pitch at St. Thomas in college, and kind of talking about his story because it's it's a unique one. He's he comes from a baseball family. His dad, Jason, longtime coach at Chippewa, but before that was actually drafted by the LA Dodgers in the early 90s, played for a year or two in that organization. And he was a pitcher. Easton's a pitcher, but Easton is someone that pitched a little bit as a freshman, and even as a freshman was the hardest thrower on the team. But it's kind of been the development of the other stuff that goes into pitching. It's not just as we all know, it's not just throwing hard. It's kind of the mentality of it, and he's developed his repertoire to the point where he's now a 4-pitch pitcher. The last few years he's added a curveball, he's added a slider, and you can see why St. Thomas, a Division I school, is interested in him because he's. Right now, he's touching 90, 91, and he's excited to go there and get with a college weight training program. They feel like there's a lot more in the tank there,
right?
And that's a program that has connections. You've got connections with both Menominee and Boyceville playing there. Walker Retz from Boyceville playing there. Briggs Richards, who's playing for the Express this summer, he plays there.
Yep.
And you've got assistant coaches on the team with one of the Vavra brothers, and also Joe Vavra's doing some kind of helping out work there.
Okay.
Obviously, longtime Twins and
right.
Tigers coach. So there's just and earlier this summer. Soon-to-be senior Warren Bovey made his commitment next year to go to St. Thomas as well. So that's a school that keeps a close eye on this area. And when you have, you don't have you have Milwaukee, but you just don't have a ton of maybe baseball eyes on this area. But there's, as we all know, there's a ton of good baseball talent.
Right. Yep.
So and St. Thomas has been able to kind of develop this as kind of a pipeline area for them a little bit, and they found some really good players there.
Yeah. Speaking of baseball, quick note, last night the Express, as you mentioned, they had a walk-off win against Wausau last night in extra innings. Gabe Richardson, 2-run shot. The bomb in the 10th inning took down the Wausau Woodchucks. So he was also named Northwoods League Player of the Night, it looks like, too. So I know CRBL action's going on.
Yep, they've got their All-Star game next weekend. Not this Sunday, but next Sunday, the 7th, I believe.
The Sunday after the 4th.
There we go, and that'll be in Jim Falls. So
right.
Obviously,
home of the Sturgeons.
Home of the Sturgeons. Home of Sturgeon Fest. There's all kinds of Sturgeon stuff up in Jim Falls.
All right, Brandon. Thank you for the local sports roundup right there.